know, you want to do that.
Yeah.
First thing.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. Come on.
It's interesting that today's moving Congress. First move.
You get a name like First Luther.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Chocolate. Right.
Well, right. Maybe that. It sounds like a connection, maybe where they decided to. This is not working. I wouldn't say it's. No. I mean, I'm not, so I. Uh-huh. So I did, yeah, I did ask them. For my own state.
No, same that. Thank you, misunderstood. Thank you.
Is it a help for retired custodian like we are?
I'm having my son also name son.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the stuff that we're working on today.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Blumenschein, and I'm a member of the Green Tea. Welcome you all for this forum. And it's my pleasure and delight to lead you, pleasure and delight, to lead you in being here now kind of experience, because yeah, as we dash about, and I know I dash about, and usually I'm late to things, it's so important to be able to reconnect with who we are and where we are and whose we are. And so please join with me in a little meditation based on what part of what Pastor Martha has written in her message in Sentinel, and our special Sunday today, St. Francis of Assisi's blessing in the animals. And if it's comfortable for you, please make it so that your feet are full on the ground, in this rootedness, where we all recognize our connection, both to the land and as our part of our being, part of the vitality and vibrancy of our natural world. And of course, I move around my arms and hands, and if you feel like that's appropriate, do so. Otherwise, feel comfortable to do whatever is good. It is true that I'm feeling a little bit like a tree right now. That's it. Please join me in breathing deeply in And exhaling. Again. We share the breath, we share the air. We appreciate the action of the trees in our midst who have made this air for us. And this Sunday in particular, we honor our four-legged kin and our flying kin and those who are pets and beloved who are other than human with us. We honor saints, Hildegard, St. Francis, who both totally were connected to the natural world and were able to share that with each other, spreading vitality and flourishing. May we too be in their footsteps, in their rootedness and branching out, that we may understand our unique roles in these special times and also find our roles as we deal with the particular challenges of this awesome moment we are in. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And while I didn't end up reading this opening session here, it's really delightful, but Ruth is reading. Should I do more introduction? Okay. Does everyone have a paper? It's up to you how much you want to look at your paper. I'm Sharon. Hi. And got Joel here. And we also have Ethan on the green team, who's not here, but some of you might know Ethan.
Herberg.
Herberg. And this summer, we got this opportunity and we're appreciating it and engaging with it, and we're open to where this might lead us, and we don't really know where it's going to lead us. So that's what I'll say up front. And so I kind of put like on the front of this, just kind of the basic details that you might be curious about. So Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light invited us to participate in this thing that they're calling a community of practice for Community Climate Resilience Hub Network. So that's a lot of words. We went to a kickoff meeting in September, and there was a meeting just this past week in October. And the whole point of this entire year is to spend time engaging with you, with our community, and with each other, and just thinking about like, what would we want to be, like, how would we want to be a community climate resilience hub? So it's a year of dreaming and visioning and being realistic about what we can or should try to do. You can see the list of the other faith communities that are participating, kind of like a variety from across the state.
And I will say that one thing that really motivated me to join our current incarnation of the Green Team and participate in this community of practice is the idea of knowledge sharing, learning sharing, right? That I think we share a vision that many churches, hopefully, you know, in ideal, all God's churches would be hubs for resilience. And then the practical logistical aspects of it can get tricky. Where does a person go, a congregational leader go to find out how to make their space into a hub? That doesn't really exist in one place right now. And I'm hoping that this community of practice can be a place of skill sharing, build a library that many more organizations and congregations can come to beyond this first 10. So it's both a place for, these communities to share what they're already doing. And of course, a place where we can learn from other people because we don't know it all. Yeah, part of our reflection can be, the aspects in which we already strive to be a community hub and what we vision for that going forward.
So, I thought there's a lot of like words in this, so I thought we could just kind of break it down a little bit. And then we could have some time to like talk together. Yeah, Rico?
Just real quick, so my initial understanding is that we've signed on to an agreement to be to be involved.
We've agreed to participate in this community of practice through April. So it's a monthly commitment to have someone come to the learning community. And then in between, we're kind of like working on some, like this was one of our homework assignments, was to gather our community together and talk about it. And so we're trying to do our homework
Yeah.
and show up. And then the idea is it could be kind of like as big or as small as we decide is right for us, I think.
It's like an exploration phase.
It's an exploration phase, yep.
Yeah, emphasis on practice. We have committed to learning. We haven't committed to putting a sign out front that says, we are a resilience hub, and it means these 5 things.
So. Okay, so what is resilience? And I'm just gonna like look at this paper because I don't have this all memorized. Resilience, I think we all kind of know what that means, being able to like withstand and recover from hard times, from challenges, from hazards. You could think of it in a very personal way, personal resilience, like when something hard happens to you. Or you could think of it in like a community way. You might. I was like, I'm not that short, but I'm not that tall either. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, okay. Okay, now I'm gonna be really loud. So yeah, trying to like bounce back, recover. Sometimes, there's kind of a negative framing on it, like something really bad happens and you gotta recover. You can also think of a more positive framing of like, how do we like all thrive together? No matter whether we're in a challenging time or not, that's also part of being resilient. It means that community members know how to use our resources, which could be like physical resources, our relationships, that we have relationships in our network, that we're connected. And the key is that it leads to high quality of life, even like when it's not a time of disruption. So this is like good all the time. And one example that was like a kind of a church example that someone threw out there that I liked is they said, everyone knows what to do at a church if someone dies and you have to have a funeral. You know who to call, you know who's gonna make the coffee, you know who's gonna be there. Everyone knows, it's like, because that's something that churches do a lot. So theoretically, there's like a plan. But like, what if there was like an earthquake? Do we know what we would do if there was there won't be an earthquake. It's just a hypothetical. There was a fire, or like if there's like, do we know what we would do? Do we know who to call? Do we know where the electric meter is? Or do we know who's the plumber if there's flooding happening in the basement? So like, some people do, maybe others don't. How can we just like know these things and feel like we're really ready and prepared? Why climate? That's like the other question. Why is it a climate resilience hub? Well, we know that like we already have a lot of challenges in life, in our neighborhood, in our community. So, and that was something that I know we've kind of grappled with a little bit is, these types of instabilities and insecurities already exist here in our community. And people are already lacking in some elements of resilience. And that's something that we as a congregation are working with every day to try to help the community be resilient and be strong and help people who are hurting. And we know there's more than what we can do, right? But we also know that climate change exacerbates all those things and makes them worse and leads to more shocks, more air pollution, more extreme weather, more failures of our electrical grid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's where the climate piece comes in. And the good news though is that building resilience, it's not just good for individuals and for the community, it's also good for the climate. It's a win-win. Okay, so if we're, doing it in a thoughtful way, then any amount of resilience we're building in is also helping with the root cause of the problem. So a resilience hub is a place. So it's a physical place that is trying to enhance our everyday life, coordinate disaster planning and response. And the key is that it engages in bottom-up planning. So Resilience Hub is not like a community center or something the city is like sponsoring. It's a place where the community is noticing what our vulnerabilities are and preparing for it ourselves and then working together as our network. So that's like how, at least the things we've learned, how they've kind of differentiated between a Resilience Hub versus like a community center or something that the city would provide for us. And then why are they emphasizing churches with this MNIPL effort? They're,
Can you say what I thought?
oh yeah, Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light. They're a group. And this is like, I don't know, do you know more about them?
Well, in interfaith, so covering all kinds of faiths and not just Christians, power and light definitely evokes spiritual concepts as well as kind of the basic things that we need in the green economy and the renewable future, right? So it was founded as an organization of faith communities addressing environment and climate.
And so as a church, we're large, so we have space, right? We're familiar, people come and gather here on a regular basis already. They're places of support and comfort, or we hope that they are always places of support and comfort. A church creates opportunities for people to come together and build social cohesion together. And churches can strengthen the community in the face of adversity. And so that's already part of kind of our mission and our space. And so it's not the only place that could be a resilience hub, but it's a kind of place that could be a good resilience hub. Yeah, Rico?
And we're starting to redevelop our property, so that's like
Yeah,
copacetic or synergistic timing, divine
Right.
providence.
yeah.
So are you talking about, our church being a hub? So other churches can also come and listen from us, or you just mean, just that I thought in the sense that we begin to look internally about what we can do. Environmentally friendly piece of property.
Both. So so the community of practice piece is us being in relationships in this network with other communities of faith that are also thinking about this process. And so hopefully like they might have ideas and we'll be interested in their ideas. We might be able to brainstorm together, share resources, come and visit each other, there's many ways that a network could be helpful. But the key, the resilience hub itself is us. It's here, it's this place, it's these people. And that's going to be a question I might ask you to reflect on in a minute too, is who is our community? So it's not, the details we don't know. So that's kind of where the year of vision will come in. But did that answer your question or do you want to?
We get to decide the details.
To be determined.
Mhm.
So that's like pretty much most of the stuff that I really wanted to like the backstory of it. There were some kind of like these things that are in italics here were just kind of like some, I don't know what you would call it, like some almost like value statements that we've heard through this process so far. We could add more probably, we could change them and develop our own, but things like starting small, matching our goals with what our capacity is, you know, not like saying we're gonna become an evacuation center by January. Like
Yeah.
that's not responsible for us, right? Or for a community. Rico?
Um, just real quick, I know Hennepin County is always looking for overnight warming centers during the winter. That'd be a little bit more staffing, a little bit more difficulty logistics, but just to help people stay warm overnight during the winter months. We're always looking for locations. Also, I have a lot of fear and trepidation about the federal government clawing back and cutting back $556 million in environmental grants and money, and I mean, just in the news today, every day.
Mhm.
Really, so it's just, there's a lot to navigate here.
Yeah, that is also true. So, and you'll see actually, if you kind of like keep reading down below, there's a lot of examples, and one of them is a heating cooling center, which is, I think, kind of what Rico suggested, the warming center. And so, yeah, so there's kind of like these values, kind of general values to just kind of think about. And then down below, there are just some like aspects is what I call them, but like basically like these are some of the details we can brainstorm with. These are just all examples, they're ideas, they're not like mandates of things we have to do. So the aspects that we might brainstorm over the course of our time in this visioning, or really indefinitely, are the types of programs and services that we would want to offer. Some of them we already do offer, but how do we want to adapt them to be more resilient, right? Like communications, like how do we communicate now? And are there other ways we would want to communicate? Do we want to make it a goal to be like a trusted messenger in our neighborhood for something? And how would we do that? Just as an example. Operations, and that's like, who knows the plumber? Like some of these pieces of like, how do we, you know, how do our operations work now? Who makes decisions about what? And like, are there ways that we would want to adapt that to be more resilient? Buildings and landscapes, so like things like our plants outside, our building itself, you know, and I'll say that's like kind of how we got into this in the first place. It was very roundabout, and we could maybe talk about that more in a minute, but I'll just go to the last one, which is power. So like, what is our utility? Is it center point for our gas? Like, who do we use? Are our bills affordable? Like, just like basic things that, you know, do we have a generator? Like, what do we do if the electricity is out? I'm sure there are people that know pieces of all these things sitting right here. I feel like I know none of the answers to these questions, but I bet you do. And then how do we kind of just like collect our collective wisdom together so that, you know, we can have more of like a shared understanding of some of these things too. And then timeframes too. The last thing they like to emphasize a lot with this resilience stuff is like the work we do in the everyday, they call it the blue sky conditions, like when there's not a giant hazard looming over our heads. This is the critical time frame. This is when we can build relationships, when we can make plans, when we can be proactive, so that when there is, because there will be another disruption, there will be another recovery that we as a community will have to go through, and we as individuals will have to go through. But if we can build those things during our everyday conditions, then we'll be ready as we can be. And so, yeah, and then the one note I'll say about the building is that when we originally came together as a green team, it was because I believe, and jump in if I'm getting this wrong, it's pouring out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you say blue sky?
I know, I think I crossed that.
Wow.
Manifestation. Manifestation.
Wow. Let's take
It's
a
a brand new roof too.
Yeah.
And just got it. So let me know if you see any leaks. Because
Yeah.
that roof is brand new.
No more.
Still on the porch.
Yeah, so so I think it was last summer that one of the air conditioning condensers died.
Yeah.
Do we all remember that? And during that process, there was some sort of assessment that said, your HVAC system is getting old. And there's been some ideas and some questions. And so that's how we ended up coming together as a green team. Martha gathered us and said, we want to do some research and we want to do some exploration about ways we could modernize and we replace. And so that's kind of what we've been researching. We don't have any answers. It's really super complicated and technical. So if anyone feels like that's their wheelhouse, we always love for you to join us in this. But that's kind of how we came together, and we've been exploring and we've been trying to see if we could get any funding to help us with some of that, even just exploration, because it's so technical. And so then that's kind of how I think, and then IPL kind of caught hold of this and invited us to be part of this, because having a resilient HVAC system is part of resilience. And did you want to?
I'll just,
Okay.
okay, so in the history of our saviors, we have had a facilities management team whose job indeed was to get into the details. We don't expect congregation members to get into the details, who's the plumber and that kind of thing. But our time together is really to talk about what our assets are and where we could contribute most as we think about the various kinds of emergencies, which on some, are predictably unpredictable, right? And I'll give you an example. One of them is the pandemic. Well, okay, we didn't know what to do and we organized, and we had help from the Synod, the larger church organization, which is an asset that we have. And then we also, in the congregation, were able to identify skilled professionals who actually could understand the science and make recommendations. And those were tremendous assets that conceivably we could share more broadly in the event of a future pandemic. And I just want us to, as we consider how we can best handle some of the things that are possible, to remember that we are looking at what could be our particular gift to the larger community, not that we have to do it all on our own.
I have something real quick with that. Recruitment and invitation piece is gotta be huge, because once a month, every month, we have a property work day. And it's pretty much always the same 3 or 4 people who show up, who can afford to show up, who have the childcare and the daycare and I understand it's about what you can do with your capacity, but we really need to keep promoting this. The idea of deferred maintenance is very dangerous. That's another threat, is the deferred maintenance. Keep putting it off, And I've come in here a couple times recently where someone left the gas in the oven stove on for several days. And so, we need to be cross-training and cross-collaborating.
And we gotta get rid of that stove.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then the other one doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's another.
So are we ready to do some table discussions on one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, share it.
All right, we have talked enough. Now we want you to talk to each other. So I think the first thing to think about is, well, I'll give you a couple options. You at your tables decide what you want to talk about. Okay, so you could get specific. Think about a challenge or a hazard that could happen to either one person or the community. And then think about what an asset would be that we have that would be helpful in that situation. So an example would be, we have someone who is very cold in the winter. We have a warm space. That's really simple, but I'm sure you could think of so many of those. So think of something like that could be one thing. Or the other question that I'm really curious about is when you think about, when you hear all this, just what sparks with you? When you think about this community as a resilience hub, what questions do you have?
what fears do you have? What hopes do you have? Like, just like what's coming to you with your creativity and your imagination. So I don't want to be too prescriptive, but those are some things that you could think about, and maybe we'll just discuss, well, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and then, and I would ask you to write some notes on the little index cards, because we would really like to collect them to bring your ideas back with us so that we can keep the conversation going and keep like spreading it to more people too. And also like, who else should we be talking to? You're here, thank you. Who else is missing in this conversation? Would be another thing.
All right, I'm gonna volunteer to do something. Just a couple notes, if everyone can please. Not just a couple, but as we're looking at the aspects of a resilience hub on the second page or on the backside, programs and services. Definitely, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to commandeer, but I'm full of coffee and vinegar this morning, so. Programs and services, community breakfast, that's the number one thing. Resource drive, food distribution, language classes, we have it all here. And we're doing it. It's just kind of like the promotion and the marketing and the, hey, tell your neighbors, walk up and down the alley here, knock on your doors and hand out some flyers, some leaflets, and just basics. I know, Ralph speaks fluent Spanish, or others fluent Spanish speakers here in this foundation that would put me to shame, you know, but we can all partner together. So I think definitely, neighborhood walks, like meet your neighbors. How about meeting our neighbors first? Meeting our neighbors. Maybe introducing ourselves, like, hey, don't just drive by and every day, you know, we drive by 18 and you don't know why I'm asking you to slow down. It's because there's constantly kids in the town. So that's pretty interesting. Community breakfast, the community meals are great. Community breakfast, maybe Saturday mornings, maybe Sunday mornings. Pancakes or just something, scrambled eggs and toast, and that's it, you know, just stuff like that, we have an underutilized commercial kitchen, you know, we don't use it a lot. And it's kind of like in need, if you were to tell everybody in this community, hey, you could come here and use the kitchen, use the oven, use our facilities. I think we'd get a lot more, maybe just communication and collaboration. Yeah, I'm done.
So I was sort of hearing all of this through the lens of emergency or,
Yeah.
Exciting.
so I'm asking, you know, as you mentioned all those things, how do we plan to like ramp those up? Like, okay, so we have a traditional pattern or a rhythm of breakfasts, but now suddenly a whole string of tornadoes went through South Minneapolis and lots of people are hungry. How do we prepare for, plan for ramping up those feeding programs to help out with the people who have suddenly no homes or, and right now, we have a bench in the society, even for the poor people, we have a bench. There are organizations that will come in like Red Cross, Salvation Army, and help people, you know, and they'll be people giving clothes and, you know, there's a system for doing that when it happens. But as the climate crisis worsens, that bench is gonna narrow. And we're, you know, they happen more and more often. If FEMA is taken offline, which seems to be the plan, how do we get ready to respond to like a surge of human need? When a government is not willing, to step in, and community organizations who do this normally, maybe are kind of stressed, like, how can we as a church like jump into that?
So we do a monthly charity.
Yeah.
Something that you might work.
Yeah, we do partner with Way House, they do food and meals every day, Monday through Friday. That's good. We do partner with, I say, with housing. So those are all really good things that we've been doing for a long time, but how do we embolden that more? Also, in our physical property, these old refrigerators and freezers, as we build out more capacity and more connections and collaboration, we're gonna have to consider building out our kitchen a little bit. For walk-in coolers and a walk-in freezer, kind of plug and play like Lego bricks, like a unit here and a unit there as we build out. If we get rid of the HVAC back there, we can build out a little bit more, bump it out a little bit more, like adding another ADU, so.
Along those lines, what I was talking about, like, let's say, one of the ways we prepare for it is that we have better equipment, is to deal with more people and know that it's. But what happens, we talked a minute ago about blue sky days, and we use the blue sky days to prepare for the gray sky days. Well, I think we're moving into a period with fewer and fewer blue sky days. And more gray sky days, and the gray skies are getting blacker and blacker. More lightning, more thunder, more tornadoes, more political, more police violence, more, all of this stuff. So how do we be prepared to deal with sudden human need in a world with less blue sky days to prepare? And for instance, let me just put this out here. Should we be thinking about having a generator on this premise? Because then maybe we have, when we have recurrent blackouts, and we might have blackouts the last days. That is a low place to be low, and as things get worse here, it could start happening here. Should we be thinking about it? I'm not saying we should. That's the sort of thing I'm thinking of.
And or battery storage to interface with our new solar panels.
Exactly right.
So one of the things, so far, I think we've been talking a lot about infrastructure and physical things. But I see one of the biggest limitations in ramping up as people.
Yeah.
Because most of us don't live around it. And so we're not here on a regular basis except for Sunday morning, Wednesday evening.
I can help. Yeah, but it takes 10 minutes for us, it takes 10 minutes. Maybe.
Some things like letting other people use the building only requires one person.
Yes.
But if you're talking about having a regular community breakfast or, something else. That takes
That requires 10.
And so in addition to ramping up the infrastructure, we need to ramp up our people.
People.
And we need to go, not only, because one of the reasons why people don't sign up to do stuff is that they're all busy doing other things. And they prioritize those other things over stuff at church, just as a reality, So how do we educate people so that they think realistically about what might be coming down the pipe? And if we do that, might they not prioritize those preparations a little higher than they can? So that might be another way of preparing for is coming up with a vision, not only a vision of the great things that could happen, which we do really well, but a vision for what do we do if the shit hits that kind of in ways that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I'll just say like this way of thinking, like I'm not, I'm not much of a future thinker. And I think especially, I don't know, it's interesting, like having kids both makes me much more mindful of the future in both hopeful and concerning ways. And means that like so much of what I do day in and day out is about the very immediate, like see so that's just acknowledging that this is a
Some of it.
interesting exercise. I think like it's still crisis when advantages is like things do kind of crystallize. So a lot of what makes us busy goes by the wayside, like. In an acute emergency, you're not gonna worry about getting to swimming lessons, you know, like you're gonna. One thing that came
And
to
if you
mind
know
for
what,
me,
if you know what your niche is in an
Yeah.
emergency, then you know what to do instead of going to the swim lesson. Swim lessons.
right,
Does
yeah,
this church
one
have
thing I
a,
was
like,
thinking of.
emergency committee?
No,
No,
That's a good question.
What?
Crisis.
yeah,
Yeah.
crisis committee. Yeah,
Crisis response committee.
that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
One thing I was thinking of is like a phone tree, like how do we spread the word? Like I know at my work, we have
We were
like
looking at-
emergency communications
We.
thread where they're able to like text all of us in an emergency and they test it a couple times a year. Churches have often done that kind of thing, you know, phone tree method. How do you get a hold of people quickly?
Yeah, rather than say.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly.
I'll add something to that. When the fire happened in 90, whatever, I wasn't even alive.
Oh, okay.
I remember my parents saying something along the
Good
lines.
conversations, beginning of conversations, everyone, because the intention of this community is that we will continue learning from each other and sharing throughout the year. Look forward to more opportunities to keep the conversation going. And one other particular element that we wanted to bring forward today is the way that Sharon mentioned this, our green team got roundabout into the climate resilience community of practice. We are looking at the right way to replace and upgrade our church HVAC system. There's an opportunity with our heating and cooling to make it more efficient, certainly. And we may have the resources within this community to make our HVAC system connect to geothermal, drawing some heat and cooling at least from the source within the earth. So we're learning about what that would be like at a building scale, what it would take. And I wanted you all to know, as I said, it's not a secret, but we're in the investigation phase of, is this something that we should do for our church, a building geothermal system? And I guess one of our assets is we have community members who currently have a geothermal system at their home.
Yes, so I've invited our local expert. I'm not sure exactly what you want to know, but I think it's a great idea to consider geothermal here, because for us, we needed a new furnace in 2013 when we got back from Holden. And luckily, or whatever, we had the money to consider geothermal. And so we got some tax rebates when we did it. So really the cost of it, I mean, the cost of geothermal is more, but we got some tax rebates and the payback has been a lot. So if you all think about how much you pay personally for heating and cooling, last year we paid $724 for heating and cooling our house for the whole year. I don't know what you guys pay. A little less, a little more than that, I'm thinking. So what are your questions? I don't know what you want to know.
What is like, what's it like?
Well, before we had an oil furnace and we supplemented that with a pellet stove. So we were pretty cold off and on all winter because we were saving and
scrimping kind of to keep our home warm. But now with geothermal, you don't turn it down as far at night. So I'd say we are way more comfortable all day and all evening and all night with that, because you don't turn your heat down so much, because our backup heat, which is propane, would come on if we demanded the heat to go up quickly. Does that make sense? So, we're definitely more comfortable, keeping our house at like 68, or if we're really cold, turn it up to 70.
Tell us how it feels not to be burning.
Well, we were trying before with pellets to be kind of off the grid, pellet stove. And now we use electricity, and it's off-peak electricity to make the geothermal work. So we are off the grid, zero emissions, we're using electricity. Hello. The dogs are happy about that.
Somebody's here to get flexed.
The other extra that we get is that the geothermal preheats our hot water. So we have 2 hot water tanks. One of them is the preheated water, and then it flows into our other water heater. And when it's super cold, we can turn our electric heat off and just use the geothermal water if you want a medium warm shower. But that's a side benefit that we have. I don't know how it will work here, but I think it would be great to have geothermal here, and it's worked well for you. It's worked great for us here. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, questions.
We've been talking about community climate resilience. So how resilient would this system be in the event of a loss of electricity for a week or something like that?
Well, we need electricity, so you would need a generator to run the system. But a generator might be part of the system that.
Or a battery backup for our.
Or battery, solar might help with that, yeah.
Right, because the generator, with like, fuel, or if you don't have access to that, and you've only got a couple days and it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work.
Yeah, generators, also, it takes a huge generator to do something like this, or even parts of it. Because we had a generator out in Virginia because of hurricanes.
Yeah.
And we could only afford to do certain things, and one of the things we couldn't be.
Yes.
Right. To set up your system with an emergency generator system. We don't have that. But I know, like I was thinking about my neighbor, he can probably just do it with our system, because we have a smaller type system. With a building like this, you'd probably need more, like, well, not as much as a hospital, they have backup generators or something. But you could create something that would last quite well, and it would run just fine, and probably be kind of minimal with the solar help as well.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that when the geothermal had been discussed before, that there was something about the broader community, and that this would just be our congregation.
So I think you are remembering when Unidos came here and talked about their block by block clean energy project, which includes asking the city of Minneapolis and utilities for more pilot locations like that of local geothermal networks. Yep, you might see 10 thermal energy network as an acronym. This could relate to that, but it doesn't have to. And I will say that the logistical complexities of connecting multiple ratepayers to one system are large. It has been done in other places, but this is one of those areas where there's the technical challenge, and I'm not sure if that is actually bigger than the administrative challenge. And, oh, Bruce?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, one experience of mine, and that is about Jefferson.
Yeah.
Which is one of the.
Yeah.
And they decided, they were a very progressive church, they was, our contractor was a member of that congregation for like that 30 years. And they decided to put in their church. And they collected a lot of money to do it, they dug, they started and they drilled. And they actually were putting it in place, and when they got down where they needed the heat from, it was an empty cavern.
It's a test.
They had to withdraw, stop, I don't know, lost all the money that they put into it, and they had to start over.
Right. That's the test bill situation. And to our advantage, Judson is part of our community practice.
Just thinking.
Yeah, so we've heard that story.
You wonder.
And those are exactly the kinds of things that help as we together innovate and try better ways of mitigating our climate weirding. So thank you.
Yeah.
For your attention. We're collecting your ideas. And I realize that not everybody feels all that verbal on a card. I'm sure we're around, we three here, we'd love to hear your ideas, Laura.
Yeah, especially continuing to write down who should our partners be in this? What do you think are the assets of our community? What do you think are vulnerabilities? And kind of related to partners, who is our community? I mean, Jesus tells us who our neighbor is, and all God's people are our neighbors. The community that we want to be the hub for, we'll say that. If we're talking about a community hub, who is that community? So I had kicked around putting this up as an open whiteboard for people to add their ideas, and we decided it was a little too soon for that. But you can imagine if there's a whiteboard for collecting these ideas, we have those 4 areas especially for our congregation to talk about who are our partners, who is our community, what are our assets, and what are vulnerabilities, to continue writing down on those cards. I will close with an invitation. First, echoing Rico's invitation to stay involved with the upkeep and maintenance of this building, which is an asset. And if you are interested in being involved with what you've heard us talk about today, the Dream Team is a quite informal, open organization. So let one of us know if you would like to contribute your gifts to either the specific HVAC project discussions, or if you would like to attend one of those monthly meetings with the community of practice. They are mostly online about the beginning of the month. The October one just happened, and that was 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, Thursday morning. So 3 to 4 hours on Zoom. We have talked about breaking it up also, if you can attend part of it, but not all. So if you're interested in joining one of those community of practice meetings, please let us know. Yeah. Pastor Esther.
Yes, you could share about that, so if you have, we could put that on our Wednesday announcement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we have Wednesday and Thursday that we do.
Uh-huh.
It's Thursday morning, we could put that on our Wednesday announcement, so people are going, that's been one of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We can do that. Yeah, because it's.
Just watching, by Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, I probably maybe already know we could look. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Should be the first. I will say also and this is the extra innings, you know, we're officially closed, but if you are wondering about partners, Our Savior's Community Services is a very obvious, logical partner. And they're having some parallel discussions about geothermal for one of their proposed buildings that we are connected with. And I reached out to Renata, who is operations manager for OSCS, to at least keep her in the loop on what we're doing with the community practice. So I think we're starting to use that kind of already.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
What were you saying about the church?
So when I can't remember who first got word of it. I think it was Gail Land.
The fire?
Yeah, the fire. It was Gail that got called or something. Someone, because I think she was the either Elaine Johnson or she called my dad, called my parents' house because he was a part of the council at the time. So like all the council members got called right away, and then all of them, once they like got there, they were calling other people and everything. And so like your point to like the text tree, like we now have technology that we can get information out to everybody, not in an email, but instantaneous to phones that like, if something like that were to happen,
Yeah.
hey, something's happening around Our Savior, something's happening at Our Savior's, whatever.
Yeah.
This is the information. Like that, to me, that's a no-brainer. And it shouldn't be, I don't think it's that hard to set up
Yeah.
a system like that.
Yeah.
Because from the stories I've heard about it, it was like, if certain people weren't called, I mean, nobody would know until they see in the news in the morning or in the paper or whatever. So
Like, we're in the actual neighborhood. Or
Yeah.
Seeing the flames go up.
Lockdown period, right, with George Floyd, was brutal. It was like,